Hey everybody, welcome to another Fireside Chat with A.R. Farina. Hey, today we're going to talk about the clergy. I know, super fun, right? It is actually. It's a really fascinating story here. So all of Austen's books, there's going to be members of the clergy. Her dad was a member of the clergy. Several of her brothers were members of the clergy. So it's what she knew, but it's also an interesting conversation that she has with who people are the clergy, because there's two different types of people who are clergy in Austen's world. There's the people who are in the clergy, and they're gentlemen, they're rich people, they're like Edmund, they're the second sons who become clergy, and that's respectable. There's the people who work their way up and become clergy and earn being a gentleman, people from a lower caste, as it were, who work their way up to become clergy, and they earn that respect of the community by being a member of the clergy. But then there are people who sort of inherit it, they get it handed down from family to family, and they don't really care. There's definitely people who take orders who suck. And Jane wants to show us that it's the person, not the position, but it's also what you do with that, right? So we see that there's people who are Sir Edmund or Sir Thomas. He's, as we talked about in the last episode, he does slaves. Bad. Tom Jr., he'll be Sir Tom Bertrand. He also is a scoundrel and a rake and all these other things. So being, just because you have the title of Sir doesn't mean you're automatically good, just because you have, that royal title. Just because you are a member of the clergy doesn't mean you actually have faith, it doesn't mean you're good, it doesn't mean you take it seriously. And what we see in this book is Reverend Norris, Mrs. Norris in this book, Reverend Norris in my book, Mrs. Norris in this book, she's the wife of the clergy, and she feels that makes her pious. And Jane shows there's a difference between piety and having faith and being a good person and believing in the thing and being human. Like Edmund, who we know is going to take orders, but he's a good guy. He has flaws. He makes mistakes. He owns them. He thinks about it. He reflects on it. He's a contemplative member of the clergy. Dr. Grant, who is the Crawfords' nephew, he too is a more contemplative member of the clergy, but his niece and nephew, who are essentially his surrogate children, they're kind of turds. They run wild, they do all these things, but they have this sense of piety, because my uncle's a preacher, so therefore I must be. And what Jane creates in this, with this idea of, is the people who, and this happens still today, we see it all the time, where people, there's a person who's a member of the clergy, and they run the big mega church, and they're big, huge haters, and they hate gay people, and then it turns out they've been having a gay relationship their whole life. It's the me think she doth protest too much situation. And so oftentimes, there's this blatant hypocrisy with the people who this is not everybody, right? It's not an all blanks or blank thing here, but what Jane is pointing in the world or in Austen, but what she is pointing out, which rings so true today, is we give the title the credit, we give the title the respect instead of the person who earned the title the respect, right? So there's plenty of people who have PhDs, who have MDs, who I never call anything but doctor whatever. Some people I know, because of my field in education, I know lots of people who have doctorates, and I call some of them just by their first names just because they're people that I've known for years. They're more of my peers, more in my age group, as it were. But even then, when I introduce them to someone, I'll say, this is Dr. whomever, because I respect that person and I believe they've earned that title, they've worked hard for it. But then there's some people who only want to be called doctor, they're like, oh, we're colleagues. And I'm like, oh, I'm so-and-so. And they're like, oh, I'm doctor, whatever. You're like, thumbs down. Because as soon as you introduce yourself that way, and when you're totally trying to be condescending, that's not a great look. And Jane wants you to know that. Jane wants you to know that, Edmund isn't going to say, I'm a Reverend Bertram. He's just going to be Edmund, and he will take care of his flock, and of course his dad is paying for it, because that's what happens. The rich people still pay for the parsons and for the rectory and everything on their property, but there's still work to be done. And sometimes, like I said, it's a way to make someone a gentleman, to get somebody into a better life, because they've earned their spot. And there is sacrifice to it, because you're not going to be rich. You're not going to be living high on the hog, but you're going to be very comfortable. You're going to not want for anything. You're going to care for people. You're going to be a pillar of the community. You're going to be respected forever. And that is the difference between owning the title and earning the title. And Edmund and Dr. Grant really have earned it. We've never really met Reverend Norris in this, but we meet his wife, and boy, the wife of a preacher, she was definitely, that was, she's the worst. And she tries to lean on his reputation, and that's what's fascinating about Mansfield Park version of the way that the clergy are seen is the conversation about reputation. So it works really well because the overall theme of the book is the reputation. Fanny's reputation, the way that she thinks of herself, the way that she's firm, the man Ed wants to be, the man that Tommy is, the woman that Mariah is. All of these things are the reputation, and they're things that follow them throughout their life. And this book is a commentary on that with all the characters, so of course, the thing that you do, there's that. When we get to some of the other books, we talk about the clergy in those books, we'll have a different conversation about them. This one is really about, this one is really solidifying that idea of what it means to have faith and what it means to choose that service life. And it's really cool in the long run because I think there's a longer through line of reflection on this. I think when we get towards the end of the series and I go through all 6 books, we'll have those conversations where we'll talk about the umbrella and sort of bring all these bigger themes together. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the clergy in Mansfield Park. Love to know what you think. Leave me a message, and I'll see you next time.